She had $20 left in her wallet. Not $20 until payday. $20, period. And she gave it away to a woman she had never met, a woman the entire room had just laughed out the door. She did not know that woman's grandson was watching. She did not know that one decision, made in under 30 seconds, was about to dismantle every wall that had ever been built against her. This is the story of Zoe, and it starts not with wealth, not with luck, but with 8 months of being treated like she did not belong. In a room she showed up to every single day. Lux and Stone was the kind of jewelry store that made people feel small on purpose. Located in the heart of downtown Atlanta, it was all glass cases and marble floors and women in heels who had mastered the art of looking at you without actually seeing you. Zoe had been working there for 8 months. Every morning she came in. Every morning she polished the cases, arranged the diamond displays, and smiled at customers who looked directly through her, like she was part of the furniture. Her manager was a woman named Tanya. From the very first week, Tanya had made one thing clear. Zoe was not there to sell. She was there to run errands. Dry cleaning, coffee, vault cleaning. Whatever task, Tanya considered beneath her own attention. And on the occasions when Zoe managed to land a sale anyway, which happened more than anyone wanted to acknowledge, Tanya found a reason to reassign the commission to one of the senior staff. A paperwork error, a client reassignment. Whatever excuse was available that day. The senior staff had a name for Zoe. They called her the placeholder. They said it behind her back. Zoe knew. She did not quit. She needed to pay rent. That Tuesday began the way most of her Tuesdays did. Slow, quiet, and slightly humiliating. Zoe was rearranging a tray of diamond chokers near the front of the store when the door opened and an elderly woman walked in. She moved slowly, carefully, the way people move when their joints have earned their years. Her coat was thin. Her sneakers were worn through at the toes. Her hair was tucked under a faded headscarf. She looked like she had taken 3 buses to get here, and was not entirely sure she had the right address. The senior girls exchanged glances the moment she walked in. One of them, a woman named Brittany, stepped forward before the elderly woman had even reached the display cases. "Can I help you?" Brittany asked. The words were technically polite. The tone was not. "I just want to look around," the old woman said quietly. Before anything else could happen, Tanya appeared from the back of the store, heels clicking against the marble floor. Perfume arriving a full step before she did. She looked the woman over once, slowly, the way you assess something you have already decided about. "This isn't that kind of store," Tanya said. Her smile was immaculate and entirely without warmth. "We serve high-end clients. You'd be more comfortable somewhere else." The room reacted, not loudly, just enough. A quiet ripple of amusement moved through the staff. Zoe felt something tighten in her chest. She set down the choker tray. She crossed the floor. She touched the elderly woman's arm gently. "Can I get you some water?" The room went quiet in a completely different way. The old woman turned and looked at Zoe with an expression that suggested kindness had become something she no longer expected from strangers. "That would be nice," she said. Zoe brought the water. She found the woman a chair near the side wall, away from the display cases, away from the stairs. She sat with her. She smiled. She ignored every whispered comment behind her. "Take your time," Zoe said. "There is absolutely no rush." The old woman rested her hand on top of Zoe's. Her skin was soft and dry and full of decades lived. She looked at Zoe steadily and said, "Good things find good people. Remember that." Zoe did not know why those particular words landed so heavily. She just nodded. Then, the old woman straightened in her chair, folded her hands in her lap, and changed the entire temperature of the room. "I would like to see 10 luxury sets," she said. "Your finest ones. Complete sets. Necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring. All 10. Zoe did not hesitate. She went to work. For 55 minutes, she moved through the store with complete focus, matching stones, checking settings, pulling velvet trays from the highest shelves. She treated every selection like it mattered, because she always worked that way, regardless of who was watching, or whether anyone thought the effort was worth making. The senior girls watched from a distance. They were not subtle about it. "She's actually doing it," Brittany whispered. "Let her," someone else replied. "It'll be funnier when it falls apart." Tanya stood near the back with her arms folded and a small, patient smile on her face. The kind of smile that meant she was waiting for a punchline. When Zoe finally laid out the last of the 10 complete sets across the velvet display trays, the old woman clasped her hands together and looked at each one carefully. Then she looked up. "I'll take all of them." The room tilted. Zoe exhaled slowly. She kept her expression professional, but the smile was fighting to come out. "That comes to $240,000, Zoe said. Dead silence. Then laughter, loud, unguarded, and entirely at the old woman's expense. "Oh my God," Brittany said, covering her mouth with one hand. The old woman patted her coat pockets, checked her other pockets, looked up with a gentle, unbothered expression. "I don't seem to have my card with me, dear. My grandson has it. I'll need to reach him." The laughter grew louder. Tanya began moving forward from the back of the store, slow and deliberate, like she had been waiting for exactly this moment. She stopped directly in front of Zoe, close enough that Zoe could smell her perfume. "You really thought she could afford this? It was not a question." Zoe turned slightly toward the old woman, but Tanya was not finished. "Honey," she said, turning to the elderly woman, "you don't have a grandson with $200,000. And even if you did, he wouldn't be picking you up from a jewelry store in those shoes." She gestured toward the entrance. "Security can walk you out." The old woman stood. She did not rush. She did not cry. She simply looked at Tanya for one long, steady moment. Then she looked at Zoe. Zoe reached into her bag. Her last $20. The bill she had been holding for emergencies. She pressed it into the old woman's palm. "For a cab," she said quietly. "Please." The old woman looked down at the bill. Her fingers closed around it slowly. When she looked back up, her eyes were bright. "You are a rare kind of person, Zoe," she said. Tanya's voice cut across the moment like something sharp. "That is it. You brought a stranger off the street into my store, wasted an hour of company time, and now you are giving away money like this is a charity organization." She pointed toward the door. "Get your things. You're fired." Zoe picked up her bag. She did not cry. She did not argue. She walked out through the glass doors and stood on the sidewalk in the Atlanta afternoon, blinking in the sunlight, with no job, no plan, and an empty wallet. She stood there for a moment, not sure which direction to start walking. Behind her, inside Lux and Stone, the old woman was already making a phone call. And she was smiling. The estate was 40 minutes outside the city. The cab driver went quiet the moment they turned onto the private road leading to the gates. He kept glancing in the rearview mirror. the way people do when they realize they have miscalculated something. Inside the estate, everything was marble and natural light. Artwork on the walls that belonged in galleries. The kind of stillness that does not happen by accident, the kind that is purchased and maintained. Nathaniel Crest, known to everyone as Nate, was standing in the center of the main living room when his grandmother walked in. 29 years old. Chief Executive Officer of Crest Holdings, one of the largest private equity firms in the southeastern United States. He had been on the cover of 3 business publications in the past 12 in-persons. He carried a quietness about him, a focused, deliberate quality, as if he was always considering the next 3 moves. Grandma. His voice changed the moment he read her face. Where have you been? She told him everything. The store, the staff, the manager named Tanya, the laughing. And then she told him about Zoe, the young woman who brought her water when no one else moved, who sat with her, who gave away her last $20 to a stranger without knowing for a single second who that stranger was. By the time she finished, Nate's jaw was tight. Which store? Lux and Stone. He reached for his phone. That's one of ours. Crest Holdings owned Lux and Stone, had owned it for 3 years as part of a commercial real estate portfolio acquisition. Nate had never had reason to look closely at the individual management of the location until this moment. His grandmother raised one finger, the girl first. The security footage from Lux and Stone ran for 6 minutes. Nate watched it twice. He did not speak. He leaned back in his chair when it finished and stayed still for a long moment, eyes on the frozen final frame of Zoe, walking out the front door with her bag over her shoulder. He had reviewed thousands of hours of business footage in his career. Performance reviews, boardroom recordings, financial audits. He had never watched someone give away their last $20. Find her, he said. His assistant Darius hesitated for only a moment. Sir, it's already 4 in the afternoon. Find her today. Zoe was sitting on a bus bench on Peachtree Street, scrolling through job listings on her phone, when the black SUV pulled up. The window came down. A man in a well-fitted suit looked at her from the passenger seat. Miss Zoe. Who's asking? My name is Darius. I'm the personal assistant to Nathan Crest, CEO of Crest Holdings. The woman you assisted this afternoon is his grandmother. He would like to meet with you. Zoe stared at him. She knew the name. Everyone in Atlanta knew the name. Crest Holdings owned half the commercial real estate downtown, 3 hotel chains. And her stomach dropped as the connection formed. Lux and Stone. She had just been fired from a store owned by the grandson of the woman. She had walked out the door with $20. This had every appearance of a trap. She got in the SUV anyway. The estate did something to her that size alone could not explain. It was not the square footage or the art on the walls. It was the quality of the silence. The way the air inside felt removed from urgency, like nothing had ever had to happen here in a hurry. And then she saw him at the top of the main staircase. She recognized him from the magazine covers. But photography had not fully captured it. In person, he had a particular weight, a gravitational quality, as if rooms arranged themselves around wherever he happened to be standing. Zoe. His voice was even. I'm Nate. I know who you are, she said. Then, immediately felt embarrassed for saying it out loud. His grandmother appeared from a side hallway, with her arms open, and something in Zoe's chest loosened involuntarily. You came, the old woman said, squeezing both of Zoe's hands. You live here, Zoe said. looking around. I do. His grandmother laughed. Not quite as struggling as I appeared, am I? Nate watched the two of them. His face was composed, difficult to read. But something moved in it briefly when his grandmother turned to him and said simply, "She's the one." Zoe laughed nervously. "That's not. We just met." She looked to Nate to share in the lightness of the moment. He was not laughing. He was looking at her with a calm, direct steadiness that did something entirely unauthorized to her heart. She stayed 3 days. Then a week. She kept meaning to leave. But his grandmother kept finding natural reasons for her to stay a little longer. Then Nate offered her a position, personal assistant at Crest Holdings headquarters, competitive salary, full benefits. Direct report to him. She said no. He paused. "Why?" "Because I don't want to owe you anything," she said. "And I don't want anyone thinking I got somewhere because of who you are rather than what I can do." He looked at her steadily. "You'd be turning down the highest compensated personal assistant position in the company." "I know." A pause that lasted several seconds. "All right," he said. "Then earn it. Interview tomorrow. My HR team. No exceptions, no adjustments." She arrived at 8 in the morning. She left the interview at 11. She got the job. She did not encounter Jade until her 3rd day at Crest Holdings headquarters. Jade arrived the way people arrive, when they want to establish a dynamic immediately. Perfectly assembled. Purposeful heels, radiating the particular energy of someone who has already made a decision about you before you have spoken a word. She was a senior director at the company. Her name had appeared alongside Nate's in 2 years' worth of Atlanta social coverage. She looked at Zoe the way Tanya had looked at the elderly woman inside Lux and Stone. And Zoe felt the recognition of it travel directly up her spine. "And you are?" Jade asked. "Nate's new personal assistant," Zoe said. Jade smiled. It arrived only on the surface of her face. How convenient. It started quietly. A comment in a hallway. A suggestion dropped into the wrong conversation. By the end of Zoe's 2nd week at the company, a rumor had circulated through a significant portion of the staff that Zoe had secured her position through personal influence rather than professional qualification. That she had deliberately sought out Nate's grandmother as a strategy. That her background did not hold up to scrutiny. Zoe kept her head down. She worked. She arrived before most of the staff and left after them. She let the quality of her work speak in the places where the rumors were loudest. Nate heard the rumors on day 10. He called a company-wide meeting. He stood at the head of the main conference table and let the room settle into complete quiet. Then he spoke, calmly, without raising his voice. "Zoe holds her position because she earned it through a hiring process every one of you can verify directly with the Human Resources Department. She also happens to be the person who gave her last $20 to my grandmother on a day when everyone else in that room chose to laugh." He paused for 3 full seconds. "Anyone with a concern about either of those facts is welcome to bring it to me directly. Otherwise, this conversation is finished." No one spoke. Jade's face was entirely still. Zoe sat in her chair and felt, for the first time in longer than she could measure, like something solid had been placed between her and the part of the world that had always been trying to reduce her. But Jade had one move remaining. She went to Nate's mother. Patricia Crest flew in from Charlotte 2 days later. She was exactly what her reputation suggested. composed, certain of her own read on people. Accustomed to having her assessments confirmed, she looked at Zoe once, briefly, and decided in that moment what she was looking at. That evening, Patricia appeared at Zoe's apartment. She sat across from her at the kitchen table. She placed a check in the center of the table between them. $500,000. Leave, Patricia said. Not the position. Leave my son's life. Take this. Start somewhere fresh. I will make certain there is no interference. Zoe looked at the check for a long time. Then she picked it up with both hands and tore it cleanly in half. I love your son, she said quietly. I did not plan to, but I do. And I'm not going to accept money to walk away from something that is real. Patricia looked at her, a measuring silence, long and completely without movement. Then she stood, smoothed the front of her jacket, and left without another word. The final move came from Jade. A watch went missing from the executive floor. $40,000. It turned up in the bottom drawer of Zoe's desk, discovered by a member of the cleaning crew. This happened on a day when Jade was the last senior member of staff remaining in the building. The call came on a Friday afternoon. Security at Zoe's apartment building. Nate's assistant on the phone. Come to the office immediately. She walked through the lobby of Crest Holdings and felt the weight of every eye in the atrium. Patricia was standing near the reception desk. Jade stood nearby, arms folded, wearing an expression arranged carefully into something that resembled concern. A representative from the legal team was present. Several members of senior staff. We found the watch, Zoe, Jade said, in a voice calibrated just below sympathy. I'm so sorry. Zoe felt the floor shift. She had been here before, not in this exact room, but in this exact moment. Every place she had ever worked. Every space where someone had decided what she was before she opened her mouth. She thought, briefly, about simply walking out. Then Nate walked through the door. He did not look at Jade. He did not look at his mother. He looked directly at Zoe. I need everyone to give us the room, he said. He had pulled the footage himself the night before. Something had not aligned in the sequence of events, and he had gone back through the building's full security archive. From that evening, the footage showed Jade entering Zoe's office at 11:43 at night. Jade leaving at 11:47, the watch going into the desk drawer in the 4 minutes between. He played it for the room 20 minutes later. All of them. Patricia. Legal. Senior staff. Jade. Jade looked at the screen for a long moment. The angle doesn't, that's not Jade. Nate's voice was flat and completely final. Don't. Security walked her out of the building. That evening, Patricia found Zoe sitting alone in the small garden behind the estate. She sat down beside her without being invited or announced. They stayed quiet together for a while. The city sounds were muted from that far out. I was wrong about you, Patricia said eventually. I don't find myself in that position with any frequency, which means I'm not particularly skilled at it. Another pause. I reduced a person because I was afraid of what she represented. I can see clearly now what that looked like. Zoe looked at her but did not speak. My son loves you, Patricia said. That should have been sufficient evidence from the beginning. He proposed on a Wednesday evening. No formal production. No arranged crowd. Just the two of them on the rooftop of Crest Holdings. Headquarters, as the city below them, turned gold in the early evening light. A small velvet box held open in his hand. You gave a stranger your last $20, he said, and then you tore up $500,000 to stay. I have never in my life met anyone like you, Zoe. He looked at her steadily. I don't want to live the rest of my life without you in it. She said yes before he had fully finished the sentence. 6 months later, Tanya learned about it the way the rest of Atlanta did. The engagement announcement ran in 3 separate publications. Nathan Crest, Chief Executive Officer of Crest Holdings, engaged to be married to Zoe, the same Zoe, the placeholder, the girl she had fired on a Tuesday afternoon for giving away $20. Tanya was standing behind the counter at Lux & Stone when her phone lit up with the notification. She read it. Read it a second time. Set the phone face down on the glass counter. Picked it back up. Read it once more. Then, a second notification arrived immediately behind the first. Crest Holdings had completed an internal review of management practices at Lux & Stone. Following that review, the position of store manager was being vacated with immediate effect. She had been dismissed by the man whose grandmother she had walked to the door. The store went completely quiet. Everyone on the floor remembered the last thing the old woman had said on her way out. Kindness is more valuable than any diamond in this building. None of them had believed her at the time. 1 year after the wedding, Zoe launched the Groundwork Center, a nonprofit organization connecting people in career transition with paid apprenticeships across skilled trades and professional business sectors. Full support from entry to placement. No prerequisites beyond showing up. On the opening day, she stood at a podium in front of 300 people and spoke without notes. I know what it feels like, she said, when a room has already decided what you are before you've had the chance to show them. I want this to be the place where that stops happening. In the front row sat Nate's grandmother, still wearing her worn headscarf, clapping louder than anyone in the room. Beside her sat Patricia, who had become, slowly and without ceremony, someone Zoe had come to genuinely trust. And beside Patricia sat Nate, watching his wife the way you watch the most important thing in any room. Because she was. The old woman had understood it from the first moment. Zoe pressed that $20 bill into her hand. Some people show you everything you need to know about them in the moments when they believe no one is paying attention. Those are the only moments that tell the truth.